Today, we're going to see many different if statement examples. We're going to start with the easiest one, and we're going to build up to the hardest one, let's say. We're going to see the basic if function, and also how can we have several criteria within one single if function, and also how can we have another function within the if function, and how can we have many different results using the if function. 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 different results. So let's start with the simplest example as possible, how to use the if function. So the if function in Excel is a function that can help us automate tasks. So let's say I have a numbers list right here, and I want to check what are the numbers that are equal to 1. Of course, I can manually do it. So 2 is not equal to 1, but of course 1 is equal to 1. So okay, or true. And then I have another one right here, and on and on. But as we can see, this list is not that large, so I can complete this task fast. However, if I have 8,000 different rows, maybe it's going to take a long time to check all the numbers that I have, or to check the criteria. That way I can use the equal sign if function to help me check these criteria, to help me automate this task. Double clicking the if function, 1, 2. The logical test is going to be, I want to check if the number that I have to the left is equal to the number 1, comma, if so, I want to have true as result. Else, or if it's not true, I want to have false as result. Close parentheses, and then enter. Okay, the first one, we got false as result, because of course, 2 is not equal to 1, so yeah, false. Let me, at the bottom right corner of the cell, click, hold, and drag down to make sure we can copy this formula down. Now we're done. 1 is equal to 1, true, and also 1 is equal to 1, true. Another thing that we can change within the if function is to customize the message or the result. Equal sign if function, double click, 1, 2. I want to check again if the number is equal to the number 1, comma, if so, if it's true, I want to use, let's say, okay. However, if you want to use a different text than true or false, you need to input this text in between quotations. Open quotations, okay, close quotations. Else, let's say, quote not equal to 1, unquote, close parentheses, and then enter. Now I have a customized message. Let me bring this function down again, and we're done. Another thing that we can change within the if function is use different logical operators, because we already know how to use the equal to check if a condition is equal to the thing that we need to check, okay, equal to. However, we can also use not equal to or different, and to use the different, we need to use two signs, less than coupled with greater than. So this is the sign to mean not equal to. Another sign that we have is greater than, that is this arrow pointing to the right, or greater than. We also have the opposite, less than, the arrow pointing to the left, and we can also couple greater than, less than with the equal to. So we're gonna have greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So let's try those different logical operators right here. And now I want to check all the numbers that are greater than 3. So let me double click in the first cell, 1, 2, to instead of reading off everything that I did, I want to modify it because it's easier and faster. So I want to check if the number, instead of equal to 1, I want to check if it's greater than 3. And if it's true, okay. If it's not true, I want to have as the message less than 3. Enter. Let me bring this formula down. And as we can see, all the numbers such as 2, 1, 2 have the same status, less than 3, because of course they are a number smaller than 3. And when we have, let's say, 5, 4, or even a bigger number, we're gonna have okay. But the problem is, if we came here to the last 2 rows, I have the number 3. 3 is greater than 3. No, it's not. It's equal to 3. So this is why we have less than 3 as the result. 3 is not greater than 3, so this is why we have here the result. However, let's say now instead of having the number 3, we have 3.1, or even a smaller number, 3.0001. and then I'm gonna press enter. Look what's happened here. Okay, because 3.0001, of course, indeed is greater than 3. But how can I include the number 3 itself into this criteria? Double click again, 1, 2. I can append immediately after the greater than sign, the equal sign, because the way, instead of only look for the numbers that are greater than 3, remember 3 is not greater than 3. 3 is equal to 3. Now we are looking for the 3 too. So if we have something that is greater than or equal to the number 3, we're gonna have as this include in the result. Enter. Let me bring this formula down now again. Whenever we have 3, that is the criteria itself, we also gonna have okay, because we change the logical operator. Now in this new example, I have several criteria to consider. Check if the numbers are equal to 1 or 2 or 3. So instead of you only use one criterion, that is previous the number 3, now I have 3 different criteria to use, 1 or 2 or 3. So let's say the first number that we have is equal to 1. No, it's not. It's equal to 2. Yeah, it is. And it's equal to 3. No, it's not. However, because it's equal to the number 2, it's already done. It's already checked, and it's okay. 2 is equal to 2, one of our criteria. So this is what I need to do here. Equal sign, and to be able to use different criteria within one if function to check many different things. I want to check, let's say, if the number is equal to 1. But also I want to check if the number is equal to 2 and also equal to 3. 3 different criteria. We can append a function here. So if function, double click, 1, 2, and in the logical test, I want to append the OR function. OR function. Double click, 1, 2. The if function allows us to use only one single criterion, one logical test. However, when we have something such as the OR function, we can include as many as logical tests that we need. So the first one is going to be, I want to check if the number is equal to 1, comma, or if the number is equal to the number 2, comma, or if the number is equal to the number 3. Now close parentheses, comma, value if it's true. Okay, so if one of those criteria are met, I want to retrieve open quotations, and then okay, close quotations, comma. If it's not true, I want to open quotations and not equal to 1, 2, or 3. Close quotations, close parentheses, and then enter. Let me bring this formula down to see what's going to happen here. Let me increase the width of the column B a little bit, like this. And yeah, now as we can see, when we have numbers different than 1, 2, or 3, we're going to have as result not equal to 1, 2, or 3. So this is correct. And if we updated the numbers, so let's say I'm going to take this number right here and update to 99, and then I'm going to press enter. As we can see, the result, the status are going to be automatically updated for us. So this is how we can use the if function with the OR function to be able to allow more than just one logical test. Now if we move on to a different example, we can check if the sales are greater than or equal to $3,000 and the month is January. So let's say I have sales such, this sales right here, $5,000 roughly. And I know it's greater than 3,000, but before I input a OK in the status, I also have one more criteria to look for. That is the month, January. This is what I need. And as we can see here, in the same row, I have February. So it's different. So yeah, I can't use OK here. I need to use another thing, maybe false or whatever. So we need to check those two different criteria. Let's start with the equal sign, if function, double click on 2. And as the logical test, as we already know now, I can only use here one logical test. However, I need to input two different logical tests. The first one for the sales, the quantity, the amount, and the second one for the month. How can I do it here? Can I use the OR function? Not actually, because the OR function can help me with different situations. But here, I need to use the AND function. Double click one, two. Why is that? Because the AND function gonna check if both of my criteria are true. January and sales greater than 3,000. If I use the OR function and only, let's say, as this example that we have, the sales is what I need and the month is not what I was expecting, I'm gonna have true. So this is not what I want to use here. I want to both of the conditions are true, not just one of the conditions. So the logical test is gonna be the first one. The sales needs to be greater than or equal to 3,000. Okay, comma. The second condition is if the month is equal to open quotations, Jan, close quotations. That is the short way to January month. Close parentheses, comma, value if it's true. Let's use maybe a okay, quote unquote, comma, and if it's false, let's just read it off the last comma and then close parentheses. Let's press enter. Okay, we're gonna have false when one of those conditions are not true, and we're gonna have okay if both of the conditions are equal to are true. So this is how we can use the if function again with several different criteria. And of course, here I'm using 2 different criteria, or in the first example, I use it 3, but you can also use more, 10, 20, 30, you name it, okay? Now let's move on to a different example that is using another function within the if function. We already did it with the AND and the OR function. However, here I want to use maybe the sum function or the average function, different functions within the if function. Check if the sum of the tests are greater than or equal to 30. So I have many different students and all the 4 different grades for each one of those students. And let's say if the addition of all the 4 tests are equal to or greater than 30, so the student is approved. If not, disapproved. Equal sign if function, double click here, 1, 2. The logical test that I'm gonna use is the addition of the tests. But I don't have yet here the addition of those numbers. So I need to make this sum. So sum function to add up those values. Double click, 1, 2. Select everything that you want to add up. Close parentheses. If the result of the sum function is greater than or equal to 30, comma, the student is approved, quote and unquote, okay? Do not forget that. Close comma, and then disapproved if the condition is not true. Quote and quote, close parentheses. Enter. Let me bring this formula down to check all the rows that I have. Okay, I have a couple of disapproved here, but overall, I have more approved. We can also change, instead of using the sum function, we could also use the average, let's say. So in a new cell right here, equal sign, if function, let me use ohms with the average, double click, 1, 2. Let's say the average, the threshold is 7.5, or yeah, let's use 7.5. So this is the average. Let's use the average function, 1, 2, to take the average of all those values, close parentheses. If the average is greater than or equal to 7.5, comma, the student is approved, comma, if not, the student is disapproved. And then enter. Yeah, okay, approved. Let me bring this formula down. And yeah, that's it. This is how we can use different functions, sum, and also average, within the if function to help us with different situations. Now, the last example that I want to show is when we have different results to retrieve. Maybe we can have true or false, but also maybe we can have different arguments such as great, good, regular, bad, or very bad. So this is what I need to do here. And as we can see, because I have the different results, each one of those results corresponding to a different criteria. 30% of margin, 20%, 15, 10, and 5% of margin. I need to check those margins. I have a sales report with the products that I sold, the price, and the margin. Let's say 40 is okay, or actually it's great. If 14%, it's bad. 30%, it's great, and on and on. But imagine if I manually input all those status right here. It's gonna take a long time, so I think it's better to automate this task using the if function. Equal sign if function. And as we already know at this point, 1, 2, the if function only allows us to use one logical test, and also we're gonna have only two results, one if it's true and one if it's false. But here I need to check many different things. I'm gonna have different criteria, and also I need to have different results. So how can I make the if function allow me to use more logical tests and also more results to retrieve? I can use, let's say, the ifs function with this s in the suffix to help me use many different logical tests and also many different results for each one of the logical tests. It's very easy to use the ifs function, but not all Excel versions, older ones, we will not have the ifs function. So this is why we can use the nested if function. But let's start with the if function normally. And then I can show you how can you do with the ifs function. That is much easier if you have your Excel. Double click, 1, 2. The first logical test that I want to start with is, I want to check if the margin is greater than or equal to 30%. 30%. I can use 30% like this, or I can either use 0.3 decimal number, because it's the same thing, right? It's just another way to input 30%. But I'm gonna keep simple, like 30%. And then if it's true, comma, I want to retrieve great as result. However, if it's not true, I still have many different results to input here, comma. That way, if function only allow me to use one more result if it's false. However, I didn't finish yet. So this is why I want to input here another if function. And this is called nested function, or nested formula, or nested function, when we are appending many different functions within one single function, within another one. Let me double click again in the if function, 1, 2, to append the second argument. So the logical test now is going to be if the margin is greater than or equal to 20%. 20%, okay. Comma, if it's true, I want to retrieve in between quotations the result good. Close quotations. Comma, if it's not true, I still have 3 more results to go. So again, let me break this row. If function again, double click, 1, 2. The logical test is going to be the margin, and this time if the margin is equal to or greater than 15%, comma, if it's true, I want to retrieve regular as result, comma, I have 2 more results to go. If function again, double click, 1, 2. The logical test now, if the margin is greater than or equal to 10%, comma, if it's true, I want to retrieve bad, quote unquote, comma. Now I'm done. So all the results that I need are almost within, almost complete. There is just one more to go that is very bad. So this is why I don't need to input another if statement anymore. I can just finish with the last value if it's false, with the last argument that I have. So open quotations and then very bad, close quotations. Now it's time, and it's very important. We need to be mindful because we need to close all the parentheses that we opened it before. So close one time, another one, third one, and the fourth one. 4 parentheses, close it, and then enter. Okay, let me bring this function down, and we're done. Let's just check if everything is working correct. So when we have 40%, we're gonna have great, okay? But if I change 40% to 30, enter, I still gonna have great. But if I change to 29, enter, okay, now it's good. And if I change to 20, it's still good. And if I change to 19%, regular, 15, still regular, 14, bad, 10%, bad, and 9%, let's say, very bad, and on and on. So this is how we can have many different results. Maybe we could have another one right here to margins, less than 5%, but you can do it later, okay? I'm gonna keep with those 5 different results. But now let me go back to 40% in the first row, and let me show you how can you use the ifs function, equal sign ifs function. It's much faster if you have this function to use it. Double click 1, 2 instead of the nested if function. Because here we can use the first logical test, that is the margin, if it's greater than or equal to 30%. I want to retrieve, comma, code, and uncode the grade, that is the result, comma. Now we move on to the second logical and the second result. So very easy to use. And I can check again the margin now if it's greater than or equal to 20%. And if it's so, comma, I want to retrieve good, code, uncode, comma, and on and on. So simple as that. The if function is very simple to use. First logical test, and then the result. And then again, the second logical test, the second result, the third logical test, the third result, and on and on and on. Very simple to use, much easier to use the if than the if function within the if function. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to use the if function in Excel with many different examples, how to use the base if function throughout just the simple logical operators, and also how can we use the if function with several criteria, and the if function with another function within it, and also with several different results. If you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you tomorrow, as every day has a new video. I see you there.